Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by husky, hairy, huggable homos, our 4-H's, as our friend Paul has lovingly entitled them, to review movies and dish a little film news. As usual this week, I'm joined by my incredible partner and awesome co-host, Jim Pliafco.
Apes, welcome podcast.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And Will, the ever-delectable. Welcome to the show, Will.
Hey, listeners, viewers, everybody that's joining us right now, welcome.
All right, so this week, as Jim has just alluded, we will be reviewing the new Dawn of the Planet of the Apes film. I don't know that I'm looking forward to that discussion, but we'll see.
I'm always looking forward to a discussion.
Oh, I know. You're right. But yeah, before we get to that, we have a little bit of movie news. All right, guys. So this week, what has got your interest in the land of film, Jim?
What do you guys think of a little Star Trek movie news?
What?
Are we kind
On
of
this
primed
show?
for that right now?
Oh, I'm down. I'm totally down. I'm down to clown, if you will.
Are you down to clown with Star Trek?
I'm DTC, yo.
All right.
Okay.
So, I might need some help with pronunciation here. This guy's name, Roberto Orci or Orci? Is it Orci? The director, the writer-director?
Yeah, I'm not
You
sure
guys
the
know?
pronunciation.
All right,
I'm
I'm gonna call him
thinking it's
Orci.
Orsi.
I
I'm
think
gonna
it's
call it
Orsi. I think I've heard Orsi, but
Because
yeah.
Orci sounds like too cartoonish. you know?
Plus, Orsi rhymes with horsey, and
Yes.
that's cute.
And we're going to talk about horsies later.
We are going to talk about horsies.
Anyway, Roberto Orci, he's been the writer on, I think, both of the, or at least one of the new Star Trek movies so far. He was named as the director of the third Star Trek movie, which is now under development. And he's already mentioned, people are talking about where's the next Star Trek going to go, being the third movie. He said that he wants to take the next installment, closer to the original series characters and have them maybe set off on their famous 5-year mission. And now Variety is reporting that Zachary Quinto, who is Spock in the new movies, by the way, has said some of the same things last week on a press tour that he did for the television critics. Da 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 da. Nice, Brad. Anyway, Quinto, I'm going to read a quote from Quinto here. He says, quote, "I think the 5-year mission will be a part of this next film in some way. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary of one of the most iconic sci-fi series in history, so it's inherently an ongoing story. But I do think that we'll feel some sense of evolution in these characters that have been building through the first few films," unquote. So, of course, when we talk about the 5-year mission, it's what we hear Captain Kirk or William Shatner say in the monologue, right, at the beginning of every episode of the original Star Trek series. Blah, 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 space, the final frontier. You guys know how it goes.
These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. It's 5-year mission to seek out and explore new life. Anyway, blah, blah, blah.
We're so glad you're on the show, Brad.
Anyway.
So Orci has also said that the vision he has is to take the Enterprise and crew into, quote, deep space. And Quinto says that he also talked to Orci about his ideas for the movie and is excited. And even though it'll be different without J.J. Abrams directing this time, it's encouraging to hear that there's excitement coming through in the cast and crew. Quinto says that he expects to be hearing about the shooting schedule soon, so things are starting to heat up, I think, with final work on the screenplay. And the movie's supposed to open probably sometime late in 2016, probably, who knows, maybe holidays or something like that. and that would give it a good amount of time distance between Star Wars, which happens December 2015, and the end of 2016, which I think will be good for a movie like Star Trek to be kind of distanced from this big opening of a Star Wars movie. So anyway, I'm kind of excited for the news. It seems like we're getting back to what Star Trek was originally and is supposed to be about, and not like silly little, remakes of stuff that happened in other movies, like we saw with the last movie, and kind of staying close to home. I think a lot of the times you get this huge starship that's very capable of exploring deep space, and we're not doing a lot with it. So. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about the news. Brad, I'm sure you are too.
Yeah, I am. I really, really liked Into Darkness, but I agree with the criticism that like if we're gonna reboot Star Trek, let's reboot Star Trek and do something different. I liked the homage to spoilers if you haven't seen Into Darkness. I liked the homages to Wrath of Khan. I really appreciated them, but I am ready for them to do something new. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped to see where it goes. Robert Orci has actually been one of the heads for Transformers Prime, which is one of the best Transformers animated series. I mean, it's CGI, but it's still animated, ever. He's a phenomenal storyteller, and he's been involved with the first couple of movies as well. So it's not like he's some unknown quantity coming in. I trust him. I think he's phenomenal. I think he'll do a good job. I just wish it was 2016 already. Damn it! I want more Star Trek.
I know.
Damn it, Jim. Damn it.
Well, I mean, damn it, Jim. I mean, the pressure's going to be on, right? Because the last movie, Star Trek Into Darkness, it did okay, but it didn't perform blockbusters at the box office. So now with, J.J. Abrams going out, pressure on this, to keep the series going, I think there's a lot riding on this movie. So, maybe some fresh ideas in the director's seat will be just what it needs. We'll see.
Especially since revisionist history has really played a big part of the way people view the most recent Star Trek movie. I remember around the same time that Into Darkness came out, our show was very favorable to it. We went from some of us liked it, some of us loved it, but we all were on the positive side of things. And I was hearing similar feedback across the board, and something happened about the time it hit like Blu-ray, DVD, that type of thing. I started hearing a lot more like negative backlash against it, more and more and more, and to the point where even nowadays I think it's more looked back negatively than positively. So that's one of those things where opinions on movies change over time, and this one for some reason has tapered off. I think this is the right news at the right time for this franchise. Again, I personally enjoyed the first two Star Trek movies. Not as a guy who's not a big Star Trek fan, who doesn't have a lot of history with the franchise. I've seen some episodes, seen some of the movies, but I'm not what you would call like a diehard fan or anything like that. So I'm excited to hear that they've got a plan, they've got a direction, and something that will be kind of veering in a different direction as kind of a counter to, I think, the criticism of the last one. So they're thinking ahead. I'm anxious to see what they do.
Yeah. Got to wait a little while, but I'm hoping it's worth it.
Indeed. We will see. All right.
There's a leopard on your shoulder. Oh, no, that's just a cat.
Yeah, no, it's just Kira who
House
is...
cat.
She randomly jumped up here, and she's lucky I didn't, throw her down. Anyway, whatever.
I think she's expressing her anxiety about our recent absence from the house.
They all have. So we were in Bigger Vegas. Well, we were in Las Vegas at Bigger Vegas over the weekend. Awesome event, by the way. Had a ton of fun. But, man, I work from home, and all three cats have not left me alone all day. I had to close the door at one point. Anyway, quick aside. Who cares about the cats? That's dumb. Let's talk about something.
I was just gonna say Kira should be our official mascot. I think we can book this as the date. Kira becomes our mascot.
She could be.
She's appeared in almost as many episodes as we have of the video show now.
Well, we are on the internet, and the internet is about
Cats.
Cats, right?
Yep.
That's true. That's true. I love cats. Anyway, Will, what have you got this week?
I wanted to point everyone towards a teaser trailer that was released for the movie Horns. This is based on the novel by Joe Hill, and it's going to be directed by, or it has been directed by Alexander Aja. It's a film where you have a guy played by Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. He's back in this horror movie. You got this guy who he went out drinking, and he wakes up after a long night, and he's got horns growing out of his head. And he discovers that with these horns, he now has the ability to get people to confess their sins to him. And this is good for him because his girlfriend was recently raped and murdered, and he's been wrongly accused of the crime. So he's using his horns to figure out, what actually happened. There was a lot of buzz around this film at last year's Toronto International Film Festival, to the point where when I did Fantastic Fest last fall, there was even some murmurings that we might be getting that as one of our secret screenings there. Didn't happen. So anyways, the teaser trailer for this film is out. It looks really cool, at least from what I can see right now. And in terms of when this film will actually hit theaters, there is not a U.S. release yet. It does have a U.K. release of October 31st, which is awesome, a Halloween release. So we're probably going to be looking for something around that time for U.S. release, but nothing has been decided or confirmed yet. Had either of you heard any of the buzz about this one? Or are you guys excited to see Daniel Radcliffe in a horror movie?
Brad, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw the trailer today. I think I might have caught wind of it in passing. Haven't been really paying attention much to it, but I did see the teaser trailer today, and it definitely looked intriguing to me. And I know it's something about the dude wakes up and finds out that his girlfriend was raped and murdered, so there's some question about whether he did it or not while he was passed out or whatever, and then he grows horns, and is he the devil? Blah 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 blah. So I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot of interesting stuff to explore there. So I'm waiting for it.
Speaking of interesting stuff to explore, Kira has now migrated into your room. She's behind you.
Like she's chomping on something, right?
She was biting your "Kill Your Darlings" poster, and now she's licking herself.
Nice. She's laying down back there.
She is. Yeah, honestly, I really know nothing about this film. I like Daniel Radcliffe, obviously. I like horror movies, so I imagine I'll check it out, but I've not really heard any buzz. We'll definitely check out the teaser trailer, though. Is he naked in this? Because apparently seeing Potter's Harry is all the rage nowadays.
No. Well, I mean, he may be. I don't know. He's not naked in the teaser trailer. This is by director Alexander Aja. He's the guy that did High Tension and The Hills Have Eyes, amongst a few other things. So definitely a guy who knows how to work horror. Very good at high tension, high anxiety sequences. So we'll see how that translates to this particular story. But I've liked a lot of what I've seen Radcliffe in recently. I've seen him in Broadway roles in How to Succeed in Business, obviously the Harry Potter stuff, and let's see. Oh, well, yeah. Actually, speak of the devil.
How to Kill Your Darlings.
Right as Kira's attacking your "Kill Your Darlings" poster. He was quite good in that as well. So I'm very interested in seeing how his career develops as he gets more and more of these roles that distance him from Potter.
Indeed, and if you want to see Potter's Harry, Jim, point at your poster again. You can see him in "Kill Your Darlings." Naked sex scene. What?
Yes.
Anyway, all right, cool. Let's see. For me this week, I discovered some fun news. Jon Favreau, the power behind Chef, my second favorite movie of the year. Yes, it got dethroned by How to Train Your Dragon 2. Thank you, Dean Dubois. He is doing a remake of The Jungle Book. And some casting news has come out for that film. It's going to include Idris Elba, Ben Kingsley, Lupita Nyong'o, who's on fire, and Scarlett Johansson, just to name a few of the voices for the film. But it now has its Mowgli, a young actor by the name of Neil Sethi. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Is going to be playing our live action Mowgli. And I don't know, like I loved The Jungle Book as a kid. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful animated film. I'm interested to see where this version is going to go. Jim, I know you're a huge Jungle Book fan. What are your thoughts on this?
Wow, I mean, I read a little bit about the casting news, about the kid that they picked for Mowgli, and it sounds like they did a pretty exhaustive search for the right kid in the right role. And I know that Favreau already has proven that he can pick good child actors, as we saw in Chef with the boy that was in that. I thought he was really, really good. Very, unpretentious. Most little actors I'd like to strangle, but this kid was really good. So I mean, if Favreau can do the same thing in the Jungle Book movie, I'm sure we'll have a good Mowgli. My big question is, what the hell is this movie going to look like? I mean, you're talking about the only Jungle Book I know is either in an actual book, a children's book that I've read, or the animated movie. I don't know what a live-action Jungle Book is going to be like, because I've also heard that none of the other actors are actually going to appear on the screen. They're only voices. So I don't know if it's going to be like, Lassie the talking dog, or what this thing's going to be like. But I don't know. It sounds like a strange mix, and I'm kind of dying to see a teaser or something from this movie when they finally get into production. Yeah, I don't know.
As long as Favreau makes sure to hit all the bare necessities of this film, I think we'll be good.
We knew that was coming.
That's what I've been hoping for. Nope.
You want to see? I'd like to see Jon Favreau's bare necessities. That's what I.
So.
But I don't think we're going to get that in this movie.
Probably not.
I would hope not. In another movie, I'll take it. But yeah, I mean, this movie sounds strange. This movie sounds strange. It could be really awesome when it comes out, or who knows? It just we'll just have to wait and see how it's going to look. I'm trying to fit all the pieces together in my head of a live-action Jungle Book with only one human character on the screen. The rest of these great voice actors voicing some kind of character on the screen, whether it's live animal that somehow talks or telepathically talks. I don't know how it's going to work.
Probably not going to be telepathic animals.
So you think their mouths are going to move like?
Yeah, why not?
Put one of those fake mouths on a real animal, like you're doing right now with Google Effects on Will.
Well, Will's doing that to himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Where were your horns, Will, when you were talking about your news?
I know, right? Like I opened up Google Effects and was like, shit, missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. What? Anyway, yeah, we'll see what happens with this film. I don't even know the release date. Yes, I do. It's coming out in October of 2015. So we shall see. But
it's gonna be opposite Star Wars.
That should go over well.
No, Star Wars is actually December of next year.
Yeah. Guys, hold on a second. You are not going to believe this, but we did not go live.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. I'm just kidding. Will, your facial reaction was priceless. Anyway.
I'm looking up there and I'm seeing it says live, and I'm thinking it's like, well, how the hell did that happen?
Fool me once.
Am I live?
Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me.
Oh,
I know.
Brad.
I know.
Brad's saucy tonight.
I am saucy tonight. I am just back from Vegas, where I was saucy for most of the weekend. And by saucy, I mean sauced. So, and by sauced, I mean libated. And by anyway. Yeah, so...
Well, I had the exact opposite experience, like super innocent Disney weekend.
No movie news from your Disney trip?
You know what's funny is they have this ride at Disneyland that I usually go on there. It's the Captain EO ride, which is
Oh yes,
yeah.
yes.
But I didn't get a chance to do it because it was closed, and in its place they had a Guardians of the Galaxy teaser thing. You could watch the first 17 minutes of Guardians of the Galaxy in the Captain EO theater.
Oh, that's the one that they put out to theaters last Monday.
Yeah, and I did not end up doing it because I'm really looking forward to seeing that film like in its
Didn't want to
entirety.
spoil it.
It's like I'm gonna do it. It's like my birthday movie, so it's like I didn't want to spoil it. So that was my only movie news. I could have watched the first 17 minutes of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, there you
Will,
go.
I had tickets to watch it too, and I didn't. It was I think it was last Monday night.
Yeah. Yep.
First 17 minutes of movies are hard for me. Like whenever they do that thing, watch the beginning of a movie. It's such like, I mean, it's unfulfilling foreplay really for me. It's like I want to watch the rest of it. Now I've got to wait. Can't do it. Can't do it.
I almost went just for the poster because they were giving away a promotional poster that you could only get at this advanced screening. I'm like, and the problem was the theater that they play it at is like 45 minutes from my house. So I don't know if we, here I am talking about traveling an hour and a half, right? If I count both ways, for 17 minutes of trailers and a 17-minute clip and a poster. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, I get that. It's like one of those things where it's like it's appealing, but nah.
Yeah. Speaking of posters, Jim, Kira is bound and determined to kill your darlings, so you may want to...
Leave that thing alone, you. She's like, what, me?
Anyway.
If we come back next week and there's a different poster in the background, we know what happened.
Yeah, we know what happened.
Indeed. Well, to those of you who just joined us, I just saw you pop on. We're glad to have you guys. Don't forget to comment live, and we may give you
welcome.
a shout out here and respond, especially as we get into our discussion of the movie this week. Do you guys feel ready to get down and dirty on some apes?
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're good to go. All right.
Yeah.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Our discussion of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. All right, so as usual, this is the part of the discussion where we talk about the film without talking about the film too much. And by that I mean, of course, we are going to go spoiler-free as we give our recommendations on whether we think you should see this film in theaters, rent it when it comes rentable, or skip it entirely. Will, why don't you kick us off this week? What would you tell our listeners who are on the fence?
Yeah, so first a little bit of background, not a whole lot of background. I did not see the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which was the James Franco version that came out before this, as the, I guess, the prequel to this film as well. Primarily because I had such a bad taste left in my mouth after the Mark Wahlberg reboot, and that I just was done with Planet of the Apes. And I've since heard fantastic things and checked out Dawn for this show, and I came out of the film enjoying it quite a bit. One of the things that I enjoyed so much about this film, especially from the standpoint of it as a summer blockbuster, is it hit a lot of the notes that I think it needed to. Obviously, this film is all about world building. We're building up the world that happens in the original Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes film, so you kind of know what direction it's going, but we've got to get there. This is all about the journey. This film follows the monkey from the previous film, which again I didn't see, but they did a good enough job of explaining it, named Caesar, who is a super intelligent leader of the super intelligent apes. Most of humanity has been wiped out, but surprise, surprise, they found a small pocket of them. And the groups of the humans and the groups of the apes are at odds, both over a generator that's needed for power, but even more that kind of the fear of what the other race is going to do to them. This film is a giant metaphor for war itself. You've got on each side of the on each side, the ape and the human side, you've got people that are very like, fuck the other guys, we need to come out on top, and you've got leaders who are wanting to try to extend the olive branch, who want to try to build some sort of peace or at least some sort of understanding. And this film really follows those very precarious relationships as they teeter along. I thought that the motion capture used for that Andy Serkis, the motion capture guy, was quite good. I really enjoyed the special effects, and I really enjoyed a lot of the combat sequences. I thought anything involving the apes was pretty damn on point. If the movie has a weak point, and it does have a big weak point for me, it's the humans were very, 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 to me, generic and poorly developed. By comparison to the much more interesting apes. So whenever you had a B plot that involved the humans, and there are a couple of them, not too not too lengthy, but the B plots where the humans are just, some of the side humans are just kind of doing stuff, really feel like they distract from what is a more interesting story that's happening in the foreground. All of that aside, I don't feel that those weak points were enough to bring down the film. I thought it was a very solid summer blockbuster, one of the better of this summer's offerings. I would still put Snowpiercer above it because that movie was fucking awesome. But I would say that this is one that you should see in theaters. I would skip the 3D. I saw it in 3D, and it didn't detract from anything. It wasn't one of those like 3D experiences that was like that made you sick to your stomach or that gave you a headache afterwards. It was fine 3D, but it didn't add anything. I probably would have enjoyed it just as much in 2D. So I would say go check it out.
Okay. Awesome. Well, glad to hear you enjoyed it so much, Will. What about you, Jim? What'd you think?
Well, I mean, I agree with some of the things that Will said, except I didn't come away liking the movie. It had a few cool things and some moments that worked, but overall, yeah, I just didn't like it. I did like the first movie. Will, did you say you went back and saw the first movie?
I haven't yet. I'm going to. But I came into this just with whatever backstory is presented through the course of the film.
Yeah, I mean, there are some moments, and one in particular that ties specifically back to the first movie, and you probably can figure out where that is without going into spoilers yet. But I did like the first movie reboot, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but this one was just a real disappointment to me. I mean, for all of its very well done special effects, right? Mostly the stuff you talked about, Will, the seamless, like that performance capture technology that they do with some of the actors now, specifically Andy Serkis as Caesar. I thought that was really well done. I thought some of the cinematography was fantastic. But as spectacular as that stuff was, I thought the story and the overall plot was just as equally spectacular in a bad way. I mean, just plot point to plot point was about the worst contrived A to B to C that I've seen in any blockbuster movie this year. I mean, a lot we can talk about in spoilers, but this is a movie that wants to make you believe that something maybe like this could happen in the future with, lab testing gone wrong and a intelligent species, banding together to rise up against mistreatment and whatever. I mean, as much as this movie wants you, I think the audience to kind of question whether this could really happen, a lot went down that just would never happen to anyone with a brain in any movie. I mean, I saw there was predictability, it was cliched. I thought some of the dialogue was clumsily written, so much so that I was uttering to myself and sometimes to Brad, the next cliched line or plot point was going to happen like 20 seconds before it happened.
It was weird. It was almost like Jim was clairvoyant. Like his eyelids were fluttering, and he was getting messages from the future. And he was like spouting lines of dialogue, and then sure enough, they would say them. I'm like, did you sneak out and see this? Like at some point.
We'll get into spoilers. There's some specific examples that were like, if you didn't see coming like a mile away, you're I don't know what movies you've been watching, because a lot of the movies have the same exact thing. Will, you mentioned there were some metaphors in here for war and stuff like that, and you're absolutely right. There's some comment. There's a lot of commentary, social commentary through here, war metaphors. But some of them were so on the nose and groan-worthy. Again, I don't want to get into what they are now because I might spoil some of the plot points. But there were a couple related to the war thing that would just kind of hit you on the head. The one thing I did like was I love Caesar's journey as a leader. Right? He opens the movie, he's the leader of the Apes. I don't think that's any kind of a spoiler. And his journey or story arc, I think, is very interesting and compelling and works well. And it's the only thread of the story for me I thought that was any good. I mean, it was interesting to watch kind of the reasoning of him making sound and reasonable decisions as the leader of a tribe. And how that relates to kind of this animal who's experiencing this level of intellect, for the first time. More as a human would be, I guess, than as an animal. But yeah, I just generally I kind of thought this movie was a disappointment to me. I mean, if you want just to turn your brain off and go see this, because I really think this movie did not want you to think about anything. It actually was a little bit insulting in spots, the way it pieced everything together. So if like ape on horseback, is your thing, or even better, ape riding horses through fire with machine guns is your thing, then go see this. But if you're looking for something more than special effects like that and a story that's compelling, maybe wants to take you to unexpected places or places that you didn't expect it to go or in a way you didn't expect it to go, you're not going to get this from this movie. And you're right, Will, the 3D was barely even a factor, a total waste of money. I couldn't even really tell that this movie was in 3D. I didn't do the glasses test where I took the glasses off to see, if it was blurry. But I can remember back watching it, and I don't think I can remember one scene where the 3D was that much of a factor.
I actually did the glasses test, but only because, kind of like you, like about 2/3 of the way through the movie, I was like, "Oh, wait a minute! I paid $3 extra for this ticket." Okay, it's kind of blurry. I get it.
Yeah, and maybe it gave it some texture. I don't know. But the where I noticed the 3D the most was before the movie for the trailer. The trailer for Christian Bale's new movie, Exodus: Gods and Kings. The movie looks pretty terrible, but there were some cool scenes in the trailer. Will, I don't know if you got to see this trailer yet.
No, that one wasn't one of ours.
Oh, okay. There was a cool scene with a horse and a deluge at the end. Brad, I don't know if you remember that, but that was pretty memorable. But so I mean that's it. Just kind of a disappointment for me, sadly, and it's sad because this I loved a lot of the original Planet of the Apes movies. I just didn't think this was really a worthy sequel to the first movie, which I kind of liked. So there you go. Brad,
no, here. Die of predictability.
Nice.
Yeah, so I don't know that I hated it quite as much as you did, Jim, and I definitely didn't love it as much as you did, Will. But there were things I found that I did enjoy. There were some things that I was kind of like, ugh, really? I'll preface it to say that I really, really, really loved Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I thought that was a great film. Not Oscar contention, obviously. But I mean, I thought it did a great job of sort of kicking off the series. And so coming into this, expectation management shot. It's possible that my expectations were a little bit high, but I tried to temper them. But I appreciated seeing what's happened to the world since we last saw the world 17 years ago or whatever it was. It's this whole like dystopian thing. That's a big theme this year in movies, guys. We've gotten a lot of dystopian movies, from Hunger Games to Divergent to everything else. And so I appreciated Snowpiercer, exactly. So I appreciated seeing what's happened in the passing years. I totally agree. I loved seeing Caesar and the apes and what's happened to them since we last saw them. But that said, the humans in this movie were totally totally
Totally.
a detractor for me, and that's really unfortunate because we spend a lot of time with them, and I don't really care about them or what they're going through. Really, I only see the humans as a force for the apes, I guess, to go against, and I wanted to see more of tribe life with the apes and how they lived and what they did, and I won't spoil. Certainly, we have a spoiler section for that. But I just felt like this movie could have been a lot more interesting than it was, and some of the setup was appreciated, but for the most part, kind of forgettable. In fact, it's horrible, but like a couple hours ago, like I'm sitting there, I'm working, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're doing the show, and I'm like, what were we reviewing this week? Snowpiercer? And then I'm like, oh, right, Planet of the Apes. It's a little forgettable. But Will, you are so right. I loved a lot of the visuals. Andy Serkis, that man is a motion capture god.
Sorry, performance capture now.
Whatever the hell it is, he did a phenomenal job with it. I really liked a lot of the facial expressions on the apes. You can tell that they spent a lot of time and money in really differentiating them. And really good example is Caesar's son, right? Blue Eyes, I think was his name, Blue Eyes.
Blue Eyes.
He looks enough like Caesar that you think, wow, they could be related, but like he's kind of his own ape. He has kind of his own thing going on. Like there are only certain parts where you can tell that they've reused like ape meshes. Like in some of the battle sequences, you see like the same 8 or 10 like typical gorilla guys. You see the same 8 or 10 of like the big furry teacher one. And it's like, okay, they're just like copy and pasting these apes over and over and over again in these scenes. But I think big battle scenes like that are hard, and those battle scenes are in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler by any means. But one thing that does confuse me is the naming convention of these films, and maybe that's something we should talk about more in spoilers. But the first movie is called Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but in the first movie, spoiler warning, it's really, to me, the dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's dawn happens first, right? And they get out and they're in the forest, and then they become a tribe and they rise up and against the human. I don't know. Am I the only one that was confused by the naming convention?
Not as much confused, but the names are clunky, and I get why they're clunky. I totally get it. They have to have the Planet of the Apes in there because that's the franchise, and then you have to have some sort of differentiator so that people don't think like, oh, this is like that Mark Wahlberg reboot. So you've got Rise, which, Rise of the Planet of the Apes is perfectly fine in and of itself, even if it's a little clumsy. Now you've got a second one. I don't think they were planning for the title of the second one. When they had made the first one, so now you've got Rise and Dawn, and to be honest, I mixed the two up. I've told people, hey, I'm getting ready to go see Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and obviously I wasn't. I was seeing Dawn. I do hope they figure out something with, if they do a third, like if they make it an inevitable trilogy, that they figure out something else with the naming convention. I don't know what that's going to be.
Well, I mean,
but it's a little clumsy.
I'm fine with the naming convention because obviously they're aping, get it? The original series naming convention, right? They went, I pulled up the list. It's like you started with Planet of the Apes, and then it's Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and Escape from the Planet of the Apes, and Conquest. They all have that kind of same, cadence with Planet of the Apes coming after it. It's just that in this one, Rise and Dawn are so
similar,
except if I were to make a difference between Rise and Dawn, I'd put Dawn before Rise. I don't know. It seems like Dawn would fit the first movie, and Rise would fit this one a lot better. But anyway, I don't get to name the movies, so it's a nitpick, true. I know, and it really doesn't have anything to do with my enjoyment or disappointment with the movie. It's just kind of a strange thing.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, real quick, we have a live comment from our buddy Abe here in Tucson.
He says Jim is full of shit. I loved it.
Well, he didn't say Jim is full of shit, but he did say he loved the movie. So
yeah, good. And a lot of people do love the movie, and a lot of critics love the movie too. I think it's just barely at 90 or 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's
It's at 91%, really?
91% on Rotten, and that doesn't mean the movie is 91. Well, it means that 91% of the critics that rated it more positive than negative. That's
Right.
what it means. Yeah.
Interesting.
But anyway,
I
I mean, that's,
rated it quite high, so I get why it's doing quite well.
Yeah. Yep. It just
Okay.
didn't. I don't know. I just felt that. I'm not going to retread that ground, but it just didn't feel like it gave me what maybe I was looking for.
No. All right. Well, I would say, okay, should you go see it in theaters? Since I posed that question originally, I should probably answer it. I would say if you're looking for a popcorn flick to go see, to get out of the summer heat, sure, yeah, go check it out. I think a lot of movie audiences are going to like it. You're going to have fun with it. I do think the first film is much, much better. But I do feel like, if I could go back in time and give myself some advice, I would agree. I would say don't pay the extra $3 for 3D because it added nothing. So go see it, but see it in 2D. But see it on a big screen if you can because cool visuals. So, yeah. All right.
Monkeys
are you guys...
with machine guns on horses jumping through fire.
Jumping through fire, that's what you get. And it looks awesome. And there's some other awesome things, too, that we'll talk about in spoilers, so come back after spoilers.
Let me segue, then, us into spoilers, I think. Are we good with that?
Yes.
Save me, Dr. Zayas.
Apes, go spoilery right now.
You've been warned. This is Spoiler Town time. We are going to spoil the bejesus out of this film's plot. So, if you are still watching, if you're doing so live, or if you're listening a couple days from now to the audio version of the show, now is your time to step away for a little while and come back if you value your virginal ape innocence, whatever. Yeah, I know. I talk.
It works.
Yeah, it works. It works.
Bears not spoil bears.
So
that's a concept.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. We need that on a T-shirt. Bears not spoil other bears. I love it. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Spoilers incoming, happening now. That poor bear. Aww.
I know, right?
So
Bears did not fare very well in this movie. Was that the same bear in X-Men?
I think so.
That jumped out of the woods. He's the jumping out of the woods bear.
That bear exists only to kick off movies. He's every summer he's like, man, I'm gonna get some work in the first 10 minutes of a blockbuster. I liked the opening sequence quite a bit. We didn't have any humans during this opening sequence. It's just the ape hunting party dealing with the bear and other animals as well. But what I liked so much about it is we're not speaking at this point. The apes are just communicating through signs and quick messages. But through that quick scene, we have Caesar and Blue Eyes and Koba, the three main apes of this story, all get defining characteristics. You get to see Caesar doing his leadership. Koba becomes the badass guy who comes in and gets stuff done. And Blue Eyes becoming kind of cautious and not quite being sure where he's going to go. You get a lot of character development just in this fight with this bear. So even though we're dealing with CGI monkeys, it could have been very easy to get through this movie and man, I can't tell these apes apart. But opening sequence alone, I'm already okay, I get it. I know who my characters are. I know what this storyline is going to be about. And to that point, I didn't have as many problems with the any of the predictability with the film. One, because they do a really good job of setting up the character arcs for those apes so early on that once the ball starts turning, you kind of get what directions the characters are going to go because they've established the character. And second, you kind of know which direction it's going to go because we've seen the other movies. We know what the end game of this film is. But I love this opening sequence. I thought it did a really good job of capturing the feel for these characters.
Yeah, I thought I'm with you. I think the opening sequence was pretty good. I mean, I didn't hate it right from the get-go. I didn't think I hated it as the plot was pushed ahead. Like you said, when the humans came in, but it wasn't just the human characters that I didn't care for because they were poorly written, and I think we all agree on that. it was how the plot was pushed from point to point to point with the humans involved in the story that I really didn't like. One of the things I liked about the opening sequence is that it didn't really show how we got what happened in the 10 years or so that it leaped forward. In the movie opens actually right at the second, pretty much at the very point with the first movie ended. Well, and we may spoil some of the first movie, so I'm sorry.
Context clues, like I know what happened.
Yeah, they show this map with the lines being drawn of how the simian flu got infected, area to area and country to country, and it picked right up on that. And you see the devastation that the simian flu wrought on human population, to the point where it's like, well, for those of you who watch The Walking Dead, it's kind of like that kind of scenario where, there's not many humans left alive in a non-zombie state, or we don't think there are. But I also saw that it didn't really tell us, though, how the apes, what happened to the apes over 10 years. It's hard to see throughout the movie. We do know that they formed some kind of a tribe and some kind of hierarchical system, but we don't know much about it, and we don't know, did they move? Because in the end of the first movie, I think they went to Muir Woods. And I don't know if that's the same place they are in this movie. It seems like it is because it's close to San Francisco, right?
Yes.
The ape habitat is in the woods near San Francisco. But it does show that they can write. They've advanced to the point where they can write words, because we see scribbled on the wall. We see ape. One of the things in the movie that they hit you over the head with later is ape not kill ape, or something like that. And that's hit on at least 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. But I wish it had showed a little bit more of the ape society and how they came along. It seems like their numbers have grown significantly in the 10 years too, because there were only, I don't know how many there were in the first movie that had escaped from. It was ones that escaped from zoos and labs, right? In the first movie, pretty much.
Yeah. Obviously, they've bred at this point, because it was a lot of the apes from the San Francisco Zoo, and then I don't know, there were like 20 or 30 left in the facility that they were trapped in, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's fucking hundreds of them now. So obviously.
Yeah,
they've been breeding, right? So
you do get a lot of them from as offspring and things like that. Because even our main third ape was Blue Eyes, who you can. It sounds like he wasn't even born in the first one. He was a Caesar's kid. So we know that we've got a full, at least one generation of like battle-worthy apes that have been born after the first film and into this one. So you can count up a lot of that. And then you've got characters like Koba, who was from a research lab. So they've picked up more along the way. Yeah. And then they've bred and yeah.
I actually thought the movie at one point was kind of, you mentioned the Blue Eyes character, which is Caesar's first son in the movie. And I really thought the movie was going in a direction of like we would see Blue Eyes kind of develop as a character. But we never really did. From the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, he was always just Caesar's son. And at one point, he was carrying a gun, but I don't think he ever really took any kind of consequential role.
I'm gonna disagree.
Okay,
because so we see him at several points. Yeah, he's Caesar's son, but like when things are happening with the humans and Caesar's deciding to help them, like obviously Blue Eyes isn't down. He doesn't quite understand, and so Caesar tries to talk to him about it. He's like, "Son, let me talk to you," and he like throws his tray of food down and like jumps down and won't talk to Caesar, right? And then like a little
petulant teenager.
Well, yeah, of course. But then later on, like he's growing farther away from Caesar. He's obviously coming under the influence of Koba, right? And we see that happening. And then we get to the point where he's realizing that what Koba is doing is is wrong. Even though Caesar supposedly is dead, he realizes that what Koba is doing is not right. And when his friend Ash like stands up to him and Koba fucking kills him, you know what I mean? Like that's where Blue Eyes really has his moment to shine. I mean, he totally turns. You know what I mean? He finds the other apes that are loyal to Caesar. They're trapped. They're being held. You know what I mean? Like he helps the human. I don't know. It wasn't the strongest story arc, but I felt like he was on a journey of sort of self-discovery, and he played a vital role in what happened. I don't know. Will, you're nodding along a lot, so.
The first
I am.
I agree with. I don't know if I agree with that he played a vital role, other than supporting Caesar and being sympathetic to the humans in some way.
Well, he has a support character though, so because this film is about, more than anything, is about Caesar's idealism and Caesar's attempt to try to lead his people, and kind of the consequences of what happens when the direction of what the people want veers away from his own idealism. So this is Caesar's story. But I think the son does have quite a bit of growth as a support character. We even see very early on he's in Caesar's shadow, you know, and he's in Koba's shadow. He's having those conversations with Ash in the woods about just, you know, how quick he is compared to the other apes, and just kind of like, you know, how he wants to, you know, prove himself. We have these conversations very early on that kind of establish that he's trying to establish his own sense of identity. And then once the Caesar-Koba split happens with the humans, one of the things that the film did, I think, well, was it didn't make Koba just like a complete asshole bad guy straight from the get-go. You can kind of see why he went the direction that he went. You could kind of, at least in his head, like justify like the path that he took. And with that, you could also see Blue Eyes like kind of coming to the same realization, like, hey, these humans are dangerous. I keep hearing about all of these things that happened. My friend Ash got shot. So you can see why he made the decision that he made, and all the way up there through the end when he takes up arms, kind of against his father's wishes. He takes up arms against the human, and eventually has his own realization that he needs to turn back to the fold, that Koba's not doing this the right way, and that he needs to help save his father's followers from prison. So this is all, like, that's a lot of character growth for a character who is not one of the main 3 or 4 characters. He's probably like the 5th build character in this film, at least in terms of importance. You've got the 2 human, 2 ape leaders who are more important to the actual narrative. So as a 5th build character, I think that's at least a good level of development and growth, for me at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it just, at least the way I remember it, a lot more happened to him and around him than what he actually did. But I maybe that's just a matter of the way we see it. Should we talk a little bit about some of the human characters?
That'll be a fun conversation.
I guess so. Sure. Were there human characters? I don't even remember them.
Well, there were. So you got an actor like Gary Oldman, who's one of our best, actors typically in these kind of actiony, adventure, suspense kind of movies, and you put him in. I thought it was a total miscast. I thought that he was such a side character that it was pretty pathetic. I mean, at least I would have liked to have seen him in the lead human character role, where he was interacting with the apes more like the guy who they had in that role was. I don't know the actor's name.
Let's see, that was Jason Clarke.
Yeah, Jason Clarke. I mean, a fine actor. I just didn't think he had any kind of, what do you want to say, gravitas or, emotion in that role. And I think Gary Oldman could have brought something a little different. If you could imagine him in that role trying to work things out with the apes at the beginning, around the dam and all that stuff, I thought it would have been better. And then we had, the guy's, was that the guy's wife, the woman, the doctor woman?
No, it wasn't his wife. The wife died, and she moved into.
She was a friend. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I swear the only reason she was there was to, nurse the mother ape back to health. At some point in the movie. I could not believe that they dropped that in there. Like as soon as I saw the mother ape getting sick after childbirth, I'm like, dude, this this woman doctor bitch is going to come in and save the day. Did you not see that coming a mile away?
Well, of course. So I mentioned before that my problem with the film was with the B plots for the humans, and specifically there were two, because I get the main storyline with like what Jason Clarke was doing, the main human, trying to get the power for the so that from the generator to light up the city. That was perfectly fine. I didn't like him necessarily in that role, or maybe not even him. Maybe it's just the way that character was written. He felt a little milquetoast to me. But the two B plots that I did not care for was Kerry Russell's character, who was the doctor who was there just to nurse the wife ape back to health, and then Cody Smith McPhee's B plot where he reads books sometimes and gives them to the other. Those were extraneous, and honestly, you cut those out and maybe use that sequence for just something more ape related. I think you would have had, just from that alone, I think you would have had a much better experience with the film, Jim, because those were two things that just were kind of time sucks that didn't do anything.
I actually thought the book thing was going to tie in a cool way to like the apes furthering of their intelligence or something like that, but they never did anything with it. It was just like, oh, it's a cool book. Okay, great. I agree with you. I think her character was so cliched, and since she was the most prominent female character in the movie, this movie was a total sausage fest. There was like, this movie did not do any good for the argument about how women are portrayed in movies. I can tell you right now.
I think one of the things that bugged me here, and it was one of those things that kind of I couldn't get out of my brain while I was watching it. I felt that the Jason Clarke, Kerry Russell, Cody Smith McPhee, like that trio of humans, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, or what, but it felt like a knockoff version of Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and one of the kids from Jurassic Park. Like it felt like I got a shittier version of what those characters were doing. Yeah. And it's disappointing because all of the apes that had like a name and personality, the three main ones we talked about, even Maurice, who was like just the ape that was doing the teaching and he was loyal, Ash the son. We had characters that had definitive personality traits, and when one of those apes came on screen, I was like, oh, that's Maurice. He's probably going to do this. But whenever those humans came on screen, I was just like, all right, the humans are going to be there to get the storyline moving along. So, again, it didn't kill the movie for me, but it was, like, I think one of the things, like, you fix that, and this becomes an absolutely top-notch film instead of just a film that I enjoyed.
It could be, and this franchise deserves that. I mean, the thing is, they bring him in at the beginning to write. They're going to fix this dam. This dam is in the apes' territory, right? And it's gone into disrepair. It's not working. 10 years have passed, right? So you have this dam with all this hydroelectric equipment, and you're going to have a team of two dudes, a woman, and a little boy, or whatever, right? I mean, that was well. There were 3 dudes. Sorry, and they have a day to get this dam to work. They're going to replace like one relay, turn one knob, blow up some debris in the chute, and all of a sudden the thing's going to start working, and lights are on in San Francisco again. That was a big moment that took me out. And at that point I knew they had put this in this was a lazy way of furthering the plot.
Well, and on top of that, like, I think the part that I called bullshit on was one of the humans that they sent along was the hot-headed guy, the same hot-headed guy who had shot an ape earlier. Like, I can honestly, in the real world, like, one of the leaders would have been like, yeah, we should probably not send that guy again.
Yeah, he's like the last guy you said.
Yeah, it's like, is there a city full of people? Yeah, okay, little girl with the pigtails, you're more suited for this. Get in the
right, exactly.
Yep.
It's totally crazy. I mean, he was really just put in there to be conflict. You know what I mean? And be the first human to die or whatever. And it's funny because, like, obviously no one would ever really make that decision. And what's interesting is, like, even when he's in there, like, what is he doing exactly? Supposedly he's some kind of water plumbing expert.
Well, He was the only dude who knew about how to make the dam work. Remember,
Right.
they even tried to justify why they took him along, which I thought was funny. Like, oh yeah, he's our only hydroelectric expert.
He's our only hope.
He's our last hope.
Our last hope. Our
Let's
best hope.
risk him first.
Yeah.
But
Make sure he
yeah,
doesn't have any
He
guns and-
has a fucking shotgun, like, in one of his suitcases. Like, seriously, how did nobody, see that?
well, I mean, I think it all gets back to the dude probably would have been there. He already shot an ape. They were warned about guns like right off the bat, and what do? That's just kind of lazy to me.
Go!
I will
There's
say,
tons of other ways. There's tons of other intelligent ways that they could have brought on more conflict.
now,
Besides
I do
that.
like the way they brought the conflict back the other way. Like with Koba, again, I keep coming back to how much I like the apes and their motivations. Koba's distrustful of the humans after his son gets shot by one. Like, that's the very first thing that happens.
Right.
And he was experimented on them. So all of a sudden, like, out the gate, we already kind of get why he's so distrustful. But even then, once they start having their split, he and Caesar, his first thing isn't, all right, let's go kill a bunch of humans. It's, let's go see what they've got. And then he goes and looks, and sure enough, the humans are there, like, doing target practice with all these guns. I really liked that. I like a villain, because Koba's kind of our villain, right?
Yes.
But I like a villain who you can sit back and say, you know what? He was the antagonist of the movie. I'm glad he got his comeuppance, whatever, but I can follow all of the logical steps that got him from the beginning of the film to where he was towards the end. Like, I totally understood why he went, like, so, like, and I get why he was able to whip the other apes up into a frenzy about it as well.
Yeah, because they're just trying to figure out who to follow at that point. But
Yeah.
I agree with you, Will. I thought Koba was a pretty good villain. The scene where he goes in the second time down to the armory or whatever, and the two guys who are shooting rifles, I have no idea why both times we see these guys, they're just aimlessly shooting guns at a truck. But he comes up and he does the drunken monkey routine, and instantly he turns on into a badass and blows those dudes away. That was a pretty shocking scene, and
Yep.
really set the stakes and set the unpredictability of Koba as a character. And I like that. I like to feel that. I like to feel something other than I know where this is going. Like, that was, to me, it was a bit unexpected and quick, and I really like the way they handled that scene, and I like the way they handled most of Koba's stuff, and how he, in what they call a false flag attack, attempted to take out Caesar so that he could seize control of the rest of the tribe. I thought that was really good too, except you knew Caesar was not dead. You knew.
Well, of course. That was the whole, like, Scar tossing Mufasa down into the ravine moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, well, Mufasa died.
But Mufasa really died.
What?
So sorry, we spoiled
Remember.
Lion King. Sorry.
Yeah.
Lion King was more true and honest with its stakes, I think, than this movie was in a lot of places.
I agree. I think Caesar should have died. I think he really should have died, and I think
I like Caesar.
Well, I do too, but I think what would have made it more compelling for me, especially as like a franchise of films detailing the rise and the dawn of the apes or whatever, like, why does it all have to be Caesar? Let's take Blue Eyes and make him the new leader.
And that's where my frustration was about not developing him more. Force him into the role to have to seize control of the tribe back from Koba. I mean, that would have been compelling to me.
I think for me that would have really, really made this an interesting film. Yeah. As it is, hi Kira. It's just an okay film.
Yeah.
To your point, I would have liked that. I do like Caesar being there at the end, not because I really like the Caesar character. I do like the Caesar character, but I'm okay with us killing our darlings. But what I liked about it was thematically, it helped tie in the growth of the actual the change in Caesar throughout this film. This is a guy who starts off with, I don't necessarily, I called it idealism, and I don't know if that's necessarily the right word, but he's been the one ape that's like, okay, we can work together. We can build a truce. We can build a treaty. I've been around nice humans before. We can make this work. And by the end of the film, you've got this leader who is still a super good, effective leader. He can lead his people, but at this point, they've been whipped into such a fury. They've got the stakes have been raised so high because now other humans are going to be coming marching down. The events have gotten out of his control. And so now he has to embrace these types of things that he didn't want, that are against his idealism, because of this this coup that Koba did. So it's interesting seeing a leader who's having to, in this case, kind of sacrifice his own values just to go with these people and lead them through the next storm.
Okay, but here's my question, right? So, Caesar doth want apes die. So, like, if these humans are coming, well, most of humanity is gone. It's a huge planet. Why can't they just, like, go to Colorado and hook up in some forests? Like, why do they have to stay in San Francisco and wait for the army to get there and have a battle? They don't. They don't have to do that. So that really doesn't make any sense to me. If Caesar doesn't want his people to fight the humans, then they can climb some motherfucking trees and get the hell out of Dodge.
First of all,
I think Caesar realizes. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I'm sorry. First of all, we don't know that there's an army. Do we see an army? We see them try to raise an army on the radio, and we hear some staticky chatter. We never hear anything definitive, really, except one guy saying,
"It's true.
The army's coming." We're supposed to buy into that. We don't know. I mean, that army could be busy protecting some other. If there is an army, they could be busy doing other stuff, like trying to survive. I don't know. It made me want to take a leap that I wasn't really willing to take at the end.
For me, I think Caesar here realizes that events have spiraled out of control, that it's not just a matter of what he wants, it's a matter of now of like what his people want and what's going to happen to his people. I don't think it's just a matter of we need to go off into the woods. His people have tasted war. His people have already crossed this threshold. This is where they're at, and now they have to be led through the next. It's unfortunate. It's terribly sad. This is a leader who is now having to lead a people through something that he didn't ask for, that he didn't want.
So wait a second. Are you saying that his people then are clamoring for war and they're refusing to like leave and go be peaceful elsewhere? And so he has to reluctantly lead them in war? Because I did not get that from what we saw, what was left of the apes.
This is, if you look at those apes, the ones that didn't want war were small enough that you could fit them on a bus. The ones that did, you could have an extended CGI action sequence with monkeys flying out and dying left and right. So I would say that the majority of them have been, converted to Koba's way of thinking.
Well, but once they found out that Caesar was alive and that Koba manipulated them, don't you think that they would like bow down to Caesar again and be like, "Wow, you totally like warned us." You know what I mean? Like Koba fucked us all over. I mean, don't you think that they would be more apt to listen to him and sort of align with his thoughts?
In a perfect world where everyone thinks perfectly logically and perfectly sensibly, but one of the themes of this film is how it's not necessarily a matter of like good guy versus bad guy. It's a matter of two sides on opposite sides of the fence who are pushed towards this terrible, inevitable thing because of fear. And you've got this group of apes who have now been in battle. Humans at this point are the enemy. They've seen their own human allies, exploded by grenades and rocket launchers and run over by tank treads and stuff like that. So I don't think it's just a matter of Caesar saying, "Hey, I'm back," and everyone's saying, "Yeah, you're right, Caesar, we should back down now." But also, I also look at it from this perspective too. Now Caesar's got a people, and it's the question is, should he take them and constantly run from the humans or are they at the point where now they do need to stand their ground, whether it's ground that he wanted to stand to begin with. I think there's a lot of territory here that makes this. And again, one of the things I liked about this film is there's a lot of gray territory here. You've got a lot of characters who aren't good or bad characters, although you can kind of pick out who the characters are that you're kind of supposed to side with, but there isn't like a straight up like black hat bad guy. Even Koba, you can at least understand his motivation. So I think that things have progressed to where they're at. Caesar realizes it, and he has to now lead his people through this next terrible point.
And granted that neither side was totally innocent, right, in this thing. I mean, but it's more of a loss of innocence for the apes, because I think, and for Caesar in particular, because his belief was that, his belief is that there are good humans, but his struggle is trying to make his people, believe the same things that he believes. He knows there are good humans, but he also knows that there are many bad ones who want to see his, the apes wiped out at this point. And so I think that's his struggle going forward, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the next movie with regard to that. I don't know which direction they're going to go. I haven't heard anything. Somebody told me that there was if you waited to the end of the trailers, even though there was some kind of clue in the if you waited to the end of the credits, there was some kind of clue at the end of the credits to the next movie. Do you guys hear anything about that? I checked my app, which is called Anything After, and it tells you if there's anything during or after the credits to stick around for, so you don't wait around and nothing happens. And it said that there was nothing to wait for, but it did say there was a kind of a I guess a spoiler or a big hint in somewhere in the credits regarding the next movie. I don't know.
Then why did we leave if it said that?
Well, because our app told us to leave.
So here's the thing.
Like, the app told us to leave. I read somewhere else that there was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm in the same boat. Like I have something that I checked and it didn't show up, but I have read afterwards. And the stinger apparently was not actual video, because we're in spoilers. It was just kind of muffled audio of ape sounds, like an ape shifting through rubble and gasping for air. Which, does that mean that Koba survived? I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The next movie's going to start out with a ape hand coming out of the rubble.
Is the next one going to be Daybreak of the Planet of the Apes? Sunrise of the Planet of the Apes?
Brunch of the Planet of the Apes.
There was one scene that I really thought was pretty inventive, and it was during the fight, one of the fight scenes. There was a tank scene where I don't know if it was Koba or one of the other apes that jumped on the tank. The humans were in control of the tank. The apes jumped on it, took it over, and then there was a scene where it's almost like the camera was attached to the turret of the tank as it's spinning around and shooting, and you get a kind of a turret's eye view of what's going on. It was pretty awesomely done, I thought, and that was the highlight of the fight scenes. By the way, this movie was PG-13, right? So pretty much all the war scenes were bloodless.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was only one fuck to give, apparently.
And there was a fuck, of course. I think you can have one or two, but you can't have more than that. I forget.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I did like the
Gary
action
Oldman got it.
Yeah, of course. I did like the action sequences. I really liked that tank POV sequence that you were talking about. I thought that looked really cool. The other thing I liked, and I normally, like, when I look at movies, I'm usually not the best person to talk about like music and score and sound in a film, because I'm usually I'll only notice music or score, something like that, if it's bad, like if it's discordant. Like for me, like if a film's doing its audio part really well, then I'm able to focus on the other things, and that's able to just kind of support things. So, but I really enjoyed the kind of the tribal music that played throughout this film, especially during the sequences where there's a lot of like the apes are communicating only through like a little bit of sign. Like they'll be swinging along, then they'll stop and they'll sign to each other, and you've got this music that kind of picks up in tempo and drops down, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. It felt like it filled that silence before there was a lot of the talking with kind of another language, the language of the drums.
Mm.
Yeah, Will, I agree. I like those kind of quieter musical cue moments. What I didn't like, though, about the score, and this is Michael Giaquinto, I think, score, also, which I do like a lot of his stuff, but I thought it was a bit heavy-handed in some of the more melodramatic scenes. The birth of the little baby ape and the kind of the end, the more dramatic scenes at the end with the. Of course, we had one of those wrist grip release moments at the end where they repeat the ape slogan of, what is it? Ape, not kill ape. Is that what it is?
Ape, not kill
not
other
kill
ape.
ape. Other ape.
Not kill ape, except this time. Yeah, I thought some of the music went over the top a little bit, but I agree with you. I think in the quieter moments it really was effective.
I agree. All right, guys. Well, we're getting long in the tooth here. Are you all ready to move on to some plugs for the week?
Let's do it, you damn dirty apes.
All right. Jim, what do you got this week? What's your plug?
Well, I mean, we were away for the weekend, so we didn't really get to watch a lot of stuff. So I did catch a trailer that caught my eye. It's for a movie called Wild, starring Reese Witherspoon. The trailer just came out today. The movie is directed by Jean-Marc Vallier, who directed, boy, please help me, Matthew McConaughey, AIDS movie drama.
Dallas Buyers Club.
Yes, Dallas Buyers Club. Sorry. This one stars Reese Witherspoon as it's a drama adapted by the book about this woman whose life is out of control. I don't know whether she does drugs or she's just been in bad relationships, but she decides to take a solo hike as a way to kind of get her life back in order. Check out the trailer. It's really cool. It has a kind of the feeling of 127 Hours for any of you folks that have seen that movie with James Franco. It really has that kind of feel. It looks really powerful. I do love Reese Witherspoon as an actress, but in this movie she does a lot of acting, I think, kind of on her own, not necessarily a lot of interacting with other characters. And I think it's kind of a side of her that as an actress or an actor that we really haven't seen before. But this movie comes out in December. It's already getting a lot of buzz for possibly Oscar consideration, either for Witherspoon or for the movie itself. But take a look at the trailer online. It's called Wild. It looks really good.
Awesome. Will, how about you?
This week on my blog at thelinduslist.com, I'll be reviewing Sex Tape, which is the new comedy that comes out this week, starring Jason Segel and oh my gosh, I've drawn a blank. Oh, Cameron Diaz. You can check that out at thelinduslist.com. It's about this couple that all of a sudden realizes that the sex tape they made has gone missing, and they've got to figure out where it's at. I also want to kind of do a more local plug. I know I've got some listeners in the Central Texas area, Austin, San Antonio, etc. Boyhood, the Richard Linklater film that we've just gone gaga for.
Don't even rub that in our faces.
It's not rubbing in place. I'm spreading the love. It actually is released this weekend in Austin on July 18th. So if you live in the Austin area or within like any reasonable drive, go see it. If you live in another area and you find out that it's opening in your town, go see it. It is that damn good. So that's what I got to plug.
Yeah, it rolls out it's only in New York and LA until this weekend, and then it rolls out in Austin and a few other cities. Well, a bunch of other cities. Unfortunately, if you live in some cities, you're not going to get to see this movie till early August, probably. So You know, I know it's tough to wait for a highly anticipated movie like this, but this one's worth the wait. So cool your jets. We'll all get to see it. But Will's right. If you live in the area and can see it, go ahead.
And if you don't live in that area, start being on the lookout for it coming to your area. Sometimes if you live in an area that has the indie theater that only gets the one film in just for the weekend or something like that, or something like that, you can sometimes blink and miss these types of films, and you don't want to miss this one. It's worth catching.
Awesome. All right.
Brad,
For me this week, I'm going TV. Sorry. The new trailer for season 8 of Doctor Who has hit. I finally got a chance to see this. Like, there were a lot of Doctor Who fans at Bigger Vegas this last weekend, which I loved. It was awesome. I know, right? I know. But anyway, so they were all watching it, and I didn't want to watch it on my phone screen. I wanted to wait until I could watch it in full glorious HD on a 60-inch TV. And holy crap, has it whipped me into an excited frenzy. I see Will has a Dalek. Jim, we're totally going to watch the trailer because you like the Daleks, and the Daleks are coming back, apparently. Yes, it's going to be awesome. It looks really good. Peter Capaldi, we have seen so little of him as the Doctor so far, like 5 seconds or something in the Christmas special. And so I really like the look and feel of this. There's this one point in the trailer where his companion, Clara, is like, "Where are we going?" And he's like, "Into darkness." And it was like, ooh, chills. But then I'm like, but wait, Star Trek Into Darkness? What? Anyway.
Doctor Who Into Darkness?
Doctor, yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, I know, right? There's like the Battle of the Mutara Nebula, and the TARDIS is just like hanging out between the ships. Anyway, so Doctor Who season 8 premieres next month. Can't believe it's time already, but I've been waiting like a freaking year and a half for the new season. So I am pumped and excited. So anyway. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. As always, it's been fun hanging out with you all virtually. We appreciate those of you who have been watching live. You guys were a little quiet this week. I guess you were really enamored with those apes. But,
listeners, what's going on? This is a two-way
Well, they're all recovering from, P-Town and Vegas and
some of them are
all this stuff that happened.
Yeah, that's true. And some did Bigger Vegas and went to P-Town.
Oh my gosh.
JB. So, yeah, kind of cray-cray. What the F? But anyway, we will see you all next week. In the meantime, feel free to connect with us on Facebook. You can find us under Movie Bears Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at MB Podcast, and catch all of our past episodes in iTunes or Stitcher on our YouTube channel for those of you who are more of a voyeur and like to watch, or find past episodes on our website at moviebearspodcast.com. Have a good one, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.